So one of the really big hurdles here on this job site is also one of the nice things about this job site, and that is the sand. So the sand has been causing us a little bit of a headache in a sense that it's very loose, so when we're driving our machinery over it, our tires will just sit there and spin and then they'll bury themselves in. We've had to dig out our machinery multiple times already, but on the flip side, it's not dirty to work in sand. It's when it rains, it doesn't, you know, get mud all over everywhere. But we kind of were at the point where we needed to do something. And typically, if we put down a couple inches of dirt, that just kind of locks in on the surface of the sand. We were hoping that with a little bit of moisture in the sand, it was going to hold tight so we could put our machinery. And honestly, other than our telehandler, we've been having just a heck of a time, or the skid loader with tracks, getting around site. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to work on our soffit, our overhangs, get our tails on, our fascia boards, and get ready for roof steel, because that should be showing up tomorrow morning, and this will be the first side that we put steel on. We'll straighten it out, everything will be perfect here, and that'll start to lock down this building, so I'm excited for that. But what we got to do is put these mats down going up this hill to get into the site with our scissor lift, otherwise we'll never make it. But I'm hoping that the dirt that's up here on this hill will be locked in enough in that sand so we don't have to move those mats around anymore. All right, hopefully that'll let us get up on top of this site here and get into that nice tight packed dry dirt, but we'll see. Cross your fingers. Last build series, if you guys were following along, we talked about these in-betweener bevel boards, and we always call them a bevel board, but we never actually beveled them. The last job on that garage edition build series, we did bevel them. And I forgot to show you guys exactly what I was talking about, or really just in general what a bevel board is. So we're up here doing our fascia, our tails, and putting all that framing in so that we can create our 2-foot overhang. And people always ask me, why don't we just do that on the ground? Why don't we make our trusses already have our overhang on? And it just doesn't really work very efficiently, because we need to straighten out the building. And anyway, I've gone into that. Maybe that'll be a future video, but just take my word for it. It would probably be quicker to do it this way than to have them come with tails. Would you agree, Greg? Sure. Yep. Greg don't even know, he just agrees. That's awesome. But anyway, our bevel board, so we got these 2x4s right here, and it's going to come out here on the face of the column once we get our actual tails on. And you can see we've put a bevel on them. I don't know if you can see that in the video. Maybe it will focus, maybe it won't, but we put a 412 bevel on it. That way when our steel comes down on top of our purlins, it sits nice and flat here, versus we used to run it just with a regular 2x, and it worked fine, but it kind of gave a little bit of a dimple right here, and we just thought, you know what, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to run it through the table saw and make a bevel board. So we did it, and I think we're gonna do that way for now on, because it's so easy. The next thing we'll be doing our fascia with a bevel, which we'll have to figure that out. Small steps, guys, you can't do it all at once. You keep learning and whatever. 2 foot. Always double check. Good?
I don't know.
Like a friggin' glove, Greg.
Like bombs.
Man, that bevel is so money. All right, So really, fascia is pretty simple. We're just gonna tack those tails on with 60 penny nails. Now we're gonna go ahead and pre-drill those, set these ring shanks 60 pennies, and that's gonna give us our uplift strength. And then we're just gonna put our 2x out here for our sub fascia. Our in-betweener board we have now beveled, and that'll create our 2-foot overhang. All right. Here. Now that was almost a big, what? I can't hear you, it's too windy up here. Why are we always building when it has to be the most windiest weather possible? The sun's shining, it's warm outside, but the wind is just ridiculous. So hopefully you guys are hearing me. Maybe you don't care actually, so I'm just gonna get back to work. Luckily we saved the camera from falling off the scissor lift. Safety first, guys. I hope that doesn't happen again, but we're putting our end fascia on right now, and we always try to utilize, you guys always ask me, your guys' lumber always looks pretty decent. Well, we do get crappy lumber in a sense that is not really ideal for our wall girts or a place where we want nice, straight, crisp lines, but what we can do is utilize that lumber here on our end fascia. We've got a connection point every 2 foot into our purlin, and that kind of gives us a place to take out any twists and turns or any, bows in the lumber. We use it here on our end fascia, so that's what we're doing right now. Right there. Okay. Yeah, dude, I love that. I love it. What was they wanted? Like 32, 8 and an 8 or something like that. 32, 8 and 8? Something like that. So it's perfect and we haven't even moved anything? Yeah. Huh. That doesn't happen often, but it's nice when it does. Yeah, we gotta move some ends, but that means our peak is at least square and our fascia straight. We've already straightened that out. So now all we gotta do is get some chains on our end wall, straighten that, and we're ready to put roof on this building. All right, Greg, it looks like right there on the column, you're gonna bring it back. Yep. And then about 4 purlins from the peak we need to bring to the north. But hey, Zach, we need to make sure that that peak is locked tight. And then we'll double check our square again, Greg. Not often do we have a building of this size that we don't have to do anything to, but it's always nice when, certain aspects of the build are perfect when you go to start squaring things up, straightening it out, because it can take a lot of time to make sure everything is exact. But I will say that that time is time well spent, so don't be afraid to double check measurements, pull another tape measure somewhere or a level to make sure things are plumb, because as you're installing your steel later on, it will save you a lot of effort and time in the future. Promise you that. Oh, money. I'd run with that. Yeah, that's ready to roof. All right, now we've got our end wall perfectly straight. Well, I mean, perfect is a term we don't want to throw around too loosely, but in our world, it's pretty darn perfect. And now we can start roofing from this side. And anything that's potentially out of place when we get to the other end, we'll have to correct when we get there. All right, even footage here on this, so 37. 3-foot panels. 9 foot. Well, wouldn't you know it, I swear this is how our year has gone here, and that is every time we go to do something, the weather decides to change. It's like, I would say most people would call this a gorgeous day, and I would also, but when you're installing 28-foot, almost 28-foot roof steel sheets, you gotta think safety, and it's just not worth it. We got these first 3 sheets up. It's kind of a nice little set. We can lock in our end, make sure it doesn't move on us between today and tomorrow. It's supposed to get about 5 miles an hour faster here as the day progresses. Pretty unpredictable, so we're not gonna risk it. We're gonna go probably get a bite to eat and start working on some soffit, some fascia, you know, the stuff that really is tedious work, but it really needs to get done too. Kickers, bracing, all the miscellaneous stuff. I feel like that's all we ever do. We go to start something and the weather forces us to change it, but that's okay. As long as we're doing productive work and we can work, I'm okay with it. Man, if you can't tell, it has just been brutally windy again today here, and you know, it just really kills production, but I feel like we're still getting some good stuff done. The soffit, our fascia was actually bent wrong, which that happens once in a while. You know, everybody makes mistakes. I don't get bent out of shape over it. I actually I kind of like those things because it reassures me why I use the suppliers I do, because they take care of it lickety split, and they will take care of it. So you know, you could look around for that perfect supplier, that perfect material, but the fact remains that nothing's ever perfect, and you're never going to find that person, because we all are human and make mistakes. But what you really should look for is a supplier or a manufacturer that is willing to sacrifice and do what is necessary to take care of those mistakes when they're made. And that's what I've found with ABC Supply, which is my main supplier, and Metal Sales, who is my actual metal manufacturer. Both of them, they bend over backwards when I need them to make things happen. So we'll get this right here, this fascia trim, we'll get that remade, sent out, and no worries, we won't lose any sleep over it.
you.